An army of the undead starts sweeping the land. Here's your look at the new boss fight studio, Vitruvian H.A.C.K.S, Irradiated Undead. From the Vitruvian H.A.C.K.S figure line, Boss Fight Studio introduces the first Series Z figure, Irradiated Zombie. Standing 4 inches tall, the Irradiated Zombie figure is highly articulated and features a green semi-translucent body. Before the Irradiated Undead goes out for a bite to eat, you know that's not going to end well. The first thing we're going to want to do is take this tape measure of mine that's now blocking this poor figure, and we're going to measure off to the very top of the figure's head to, of course, know then how tall the figure stands. I'm moving it also over so I don't accidentally clip its arm. Not only is that going to really frustrate and tick off the zombie, but it's not going to give me a proper reading either. So, moving it over a little bit, we're going to stop it right there. The Boss Fight Studio Irradiated Undead for the Vitruvian H.A.C.K.S line stands 5.1 inches in height. Switching that over to centimeters, then you're looking at the figure standing 13.1 centimeters tall. The figure will include a display stand that we have certainly seen with other Vitruvian H.A.C.K releases. I'm not sure if specifically that's supposed to be a manhole cover further up to the top area of the display stand, but as you can see, it's sort of detailed in such a way it's supposed to mimic concrete. 2 pegs on both sides of the makeshift manhole cover that you can then attach the figure's feet to. Not only does it finish off the figure nicely on a shelf, but also guarantees more stability on the figure when you're having it standing. Put that to the side. It also comes included with a couple of cool accessories, one of which being a brush, a sweeping up brush. Does that mean that this Vitruvian H.A.C.K Irradiated Undead at one point was a service worker? Somebody that went around maybe cleaning up the streets? A janitor or sanitation engineer that worked in the school hallways? Whatever the story may be behind the scenes, boy, is it a fun touch, the fact that they actually included a brush like this. I don't know if that's necessarily, is that zombie slime, zombie blood that it's sweeping up? I don't even know. I want to know more about what's going on with this Vitruvian H.A.C.K zombie. You can also see that there's holes at the very top of the handle. The idea is supposed to be, I'm guessing, that it's supposed to fit into its hands. You can see the fingers right now, the way that they are extended. Those are clawing hands that want to lay into some normal living person's flesh. But I think it's also supposed to serve that the pegs, the little peg fingers, are supposed to fit into these holes. They do an all-right job of doing it, but even when you're seeing it like this, it actually just looks like he's palming the broom. Instead, what I actually like to do is have the broom closer to like his thumb, and providing you've actually got it on a display stand, the broom seems to rest fine on its own without actually having to attach it. But I think that's what those peg holes are supposed to be for. Again, it's very difficult. You can actually see like this finger here, the pointer finger, and I guess then the, what is that, the ring finger. Those are the things that are actually sticking forward like this. And I'm guessing, again, that's supposed to fit into those holes. Very softer fingers, too. Pretty much assures that this is going to be a difficult time getting that plugged into place. But you can kind of see how it's supposed to work. But again, I'm more inclined just to kind of have it resting against its thumb like this. The other accessory it comes included with is a pipe. Now, there's blood all over this pipe. This pipe has been used. This pipe would have stories to tell if it could somehow write an autobiographical book. It probably would have quite the stories to tell. It also has some slime on the end of it as well. Is that, again, zombie slime? Do these things bleed green? I'm just going to assume yes. And that, again, can fit into its hands. Now, it doesn't seem like there's a hole right at the very top there. I don't know if that's supposed to plug necessarily into that finger that we looked at earlier. Again, you can kind of just even have it resting. It almost kind of looks a bit like a cane, have it displayed like that as well. So those are the accessories. We'll kind of put those to the side, move everything out of the way, and get a closer look now at the Irradiated Zombie. As a zombie fan, I gotta tell you, I love this figure. The fact it's glowing the way that it is, it's basically all translucent plastic. The plastic itself, first of all, is already a translucent green, but then they've brushed over top of it this fluorescent green, and boy, does it ever glow. The head sculpt, as you can certainly see, more of a mummified looking zombie, with all white eyes, all white teeth. He certainly would be photogenic? Is that what they say when you're good for photos? He's very photogenic. He's a very photogenic zombie, the irradiated undead here. Head sculpt is really good, though. I mean, again, closer look so you can see the details on the face. It surprisingly doesn't lose any of the features, despite for the fact it has all the brushing of the fluorescent green on top of it. If you had a light source, I'm sure you could probably run it behind it and just glow this straight through, have the light shining straight through it. Spinning around, though, so you can certainly see the detailing on the back. I like that they've kept the bones still white, though the rest of the bones, like the ribcage, for example, are, well, the molded plastic, but there are still aspects of it, at least of it, that are still painted in white, like the spinal cord, this one little bone sticking out, I guess, from its shoulder blade. And there's ribcage bones sticking out on the bottom here as well. And it's got all these gashes in there as well. Now, these gashes, if you're curious, don't necessarily line up with the pipe. The pipe is just too big to actually fit in there. But I'm guessing if you probably took some of the other Vitruvian hack zombie-related figures, you probably could find yourself a machete, an axe, or something else to lodge into the torso there of this undead. Really, it's got some cool colors going for it. As we move a little bit further down, this one at least had the decency to wear itself some shorts, or it could be torn away pants. This could be what's left of the pants. Now, again, we could come up with these stories as to what the backstory is on this particular undead. Maybe it's a former prisoner. Why not? It's possible. Like the tears on the pants. I'm guessing they probably have just painted the existing clear plastic with the orange over top of it to get this effect that you're getting. And you see there's like a draw cord on the top there. Maybe this guy was a former prisoner. All these nice little gashes there on his legs as well. More making use of the darker green. And this one also is barefooted as well. Flip it upside down. Not only are you treated to fully sculpted undersoles of the feet, but there's also peg holes on the undersides there too. So you can attach it, of course, to the display stand it comes included with. For the figure's articulation, let's go ahead and look at that right now. Head rotates all the way around on a nice ball joint. It hinges up and down and back and forth. The arms also hinge out as well. And just in case you're also curious, one thing I do want to comment on when it comes to the Vitruvian hack figures, despite their size, despite the fact that the joints are a little bit more on the smaller size, I find like the joints are really tight. And the plastic feels good as well. Arms rotate all the way around. Does have a bend in the elbow. You can rotate the forearm as well on that hinge joint. You can also rotate the hands all the way around as well. Upper torso. There's a ball joint right below the rib cage. A good place to conceal the joint if you ask me. There's also a secondary joint, I think right at the very base here. There's a swivel. It's just a little on the tighter side. Legs split out. Now they are using a more opaque plastic for the joint underneath here. Not to the point where I feel concerned, but I feel always the need to draw everyone's attention to the groin area. I think we've now started coining this, the figure's groin part of the review. Anyways, that's... You can see the ball joints, the way that the legs are pegged in place. You can bring the legs forward, you can bring the legs back, and certainly, again, that out. There is no swivel anywhere on the thigh. This is all one piece, but there is a double hinge on the knee. That's a nice touch. And there's also, of course, the articulation on the feet. Back and forth ankle pivot there as well. Can't really think of anything I would have really changed to this figure. Maybe short of the fact that I think this figure also could have included... I mean, I'm all for the idea of ripping into flesh hands. But I think the figure also could have used some gripping hands as well. Just so that he would have had the proper means. Because, like, right now, again, like, the hands really... They're supposed to, I'm guessing, fit into these holes. They don't really do the greatest of jobs. I mean, I guess you could kind of put the thumb in there as well. Let's get the thumb in there as well, just to show you. You could get the thumb, technically, I suppose, in the hole. It's just a little bit more difficult. This could all certainly be remedied by just simply using gripping hands. So... I would have liked to have seen these figures actually come with gripping hands. Yeah, it's not great. It's not actually, it's very difficult to get it onto his thumb. It holds it. I mean, granted, you kind of get this look right here, and I guess maybe that's the intended plan of why those holes were there in the first place. But maybe gripping hands certainly would have helped, I think, to hold these accessories a little bit better. At the end of the day, I'm probably not even going to have them displayed with the pipe or the broom either. I just kind of like the idea of just displaying him. A nice glowing, illuminating zombie. A really nice release from the folks over at Boss Fight Studio. The Boss Fight Studio Irradiated Undead ends up being quite the fun-looking zombie to be putting on display. Falling into that Vitruvian hacks line, these 3 3/4 inch size or 4-inch scaled figures have just as much detail as you would get in a smaller package as you would with a larger sized figure. The color scheme on this one really is the thing that stands out for me. Using that translucent green plastic and then slathering over top of it that brighter green color, it has a glowing effect going for it. In case you are curious, it doesn't actually glow in the dark. Not that at least I was able to get. I put it in front of a lamplight, turned off the lights just assuming it would glow, and it didn't seem to glow. I think it's more just the coloring that they ended up going with, which actually, looking at the color, kind of reminds me a little bit like Toxic Crusader's Toxie. Maybe this is what ended up happening to Toxie after the zombie invasion. It's possible. The way that the colors, especially the lower trunks being that similar orange color, you can certainly come up with very much more elaborate stories as to really the story behind the irradiated undead. The very fact that he does have a broom, maybe he was a janitor at some point, a service engineer. They don't really like to be called janitors. The figure is superposable, as you would probably expect by now from the Vitruvian hacks line. Lots of detailing. And the fact it does have some accessories is a nice touch, though I'm probably more inclined just to display it with his arms up, like it wants to rip into somebody. Isn't that lovely? A big thank you, though, to the folks over at Boss Fight Studio that provided the sample of the Vitruvian hacks, Irradiated Undead, that we could have a look at in this review. And just as a side note, I don't know if you guys have caught on yet, but the box is actually a chamber that the Irradiated Undead probably was originally in before somebody just foolishly thought out, probably was teenagers making out in front of it, and somebody just, leaned against the buttons, activated it, opened it up. Isn't that usually what happens in zombie movies? Some careless person, either out of curiosity or just happens to fall against the switch. Is that the kind of security that we put on these chambers? You literally just have to lean against them. It just turns on the buttons, it puts in the combination, and it unlocks the chamber, unleashing the undead. You got to be a lot smarter than that. Go make out somewhere else away from the glowing zombies chamber. Anyways, if you guys are new to this channel, enjoying all the content you're seeing, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Be sure to hit that bell notification. Be sure you're coming back to this channel as well, because we will in fact be looking at more Vitruvian hacks from the folks over at Boss Fight Studio. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.